Hey everybody, Zach from RW Makes Magic here. Just want to take a second to tell you that the channel is sponsored by Mana Traders. It lets me rent the decks and play all the different formats for the people on the channel, which is tough to do without the help from this. So we really appreciate it from them. But I wanted to let you guys know that we have, Mana Traders has a $15,000 legacy tournament this month, and that's insane. You don't find those prizes anywhere right now. Those are just the biggest prizes you can play for in Magic if you're not, getting God invites to Mythic Invitationals or whatever by Wizards. So for a normal player like me, this is the biggest thing you can play in, and it's a big deal. You do want to be subscribed to Mana Traders. You can't win the actual 15,000 without that. And if you want to sign up, you can use code A22EN at checkout and get a subscription to Mana Traders, be able to rent all the cards you want for Magic Online, and start winning that $15K now.
Hey everyone, Connor here with another episode of Making Magic Happen, brought to you by RIW Hobbies and Games in Livonia, Michigan. Today we're playing a little bit more Pioneer, going to be firing up a Prelim, but this time it's going to look a little bit different. We're going to be playing some Oops All Spells today, courtesy of my friend Baker VTCLA Neenan, who played in the recent Mox Championship with this deck. Oops All Spells is one of the more powerful decks in Pioneer right now, and he and I are both convinced that it's the most well-positioned deck in the format. Right now, I'm probably going to be focusing a lot on Pioneer. Y'all may remember about a month ago I won the Mox Showcase Challenge, which qualified me for the upcoming Mox Showcase Qualifier, which is a 26-person event that's going to qualify. The winner will qualify for both the next Pro Tour, or Players Tour, or whatever the equivalent is, and the 8-player Magic Online Showcase for this season. So I'm going to be playing a lot of Pioneer, trying to figure out what the best decks are, and really trying to take that event down and get qualified for the Mox. So let's start by breaking down this Oops deck. Y'all may notice that I have it laid out a little bit differently than I normally do. It's not by converted mana cost or anything like that, because the curve of this deck doesn't really matter. So for those of you unfamiliar, the purpose of this deck is to use the cards Balustrade Spy and Undercity Informer, which say, when we get them in play, we can flip over cards from the top of our deck until we hit a land, and then put everything else into our graveyard. You may notice we don't have any lands. So these new double-faced land cards from Zendikar Rising have really made these Oops All Spells deck good in a lot of different formats, and Pioneer is where I think it's the best positioned. So what the combo is we get one of these cards in play, or we cheat one of them into play with Eldritch Evolution. We flip over 4 Creeping Chills, we dome our opponent for 12, we gain 12 life. We return Silver Smote Ghoul from the graveyard to our hand, or from our graveyard to the battlefield. Prized Amalgam follows after that. Now, how are we doing this? We have untapped lands here. These are the untapped spell lands. We have to pay 3 life to make those come in untapped, but pretty small price to pay. And then we have 10 of the comes into play tap lands. Now sometimes you use these as spells, sometimes you use Hagra Mauling to remove a troublesome creature, or Bally Get Recovery to rebuy a combo piece, but for the most part these are just lands. We have Sylvan Caryatid and Paradise Druid as our kind of hexproof enablers. These ones are really good to sacrifice to Eldritch Evolution. And then we have Tangled Florahedron, which can play the role of either a ramp card and a sacrifice target, or it can just be a comes into play tap land. Now, once we've flipped over our deck, we have a few utility cards to help us out. Excuse me. I actually just finished up the recording, so my voice is a little bit scratchy, but we've got Worldspine Worm here, and so what this does is it shuffles back into our library from the graveyard, which means that we don't deck when we get a couple turns after we combo off, and so we don't just lose the game on the spot from drawing a card, because we do usually need to take an untap step. We have a Haunted Dead, and this can discard any Worldspine Worms or any Prized Amalgams or Silver Smote Ghouls that we have drawn in our hand. Just gets things into the graveyard if we want them there. We have Driven to Despair, which you can flash back Despair to give Menace to all of your creatures. That can be really helpful if our opponent has, say, a lot of blockers in play or a lot of tokens. And then we have Narcomoeba. There are some matchups where you want to bring back your prized amalgams right away because Silver Smoke Ghoul, how this works is it comes back on our end step, and then prized amalgam will see Silver Smoke Ghoul and then come back on our opponent's end step. Sometimes we will want to bring back creatures we'll want to bring back prized amalgam on our own turn to play around. Let's say our opponent top decks Graveyard Hate, or our opponent has something that can remove them from the graveyard. We'll want to have Narcomoeba to bring them back right away. There are some matchups where we're worried about sweepers, in which case we will leave the Narcomoeba in our graveyard so that we don't get swept. So that, if our opponent has a sorcery speed sweeper like an Anger of the Gods or Supreme Verdict, then prized amalgams will come back on their end step, and then we can untap and still win the game. We'll take a look at the sideboard, and I had honestly just copied Baker's list, so I'm still not entirely sure what some of these sideboard choices are for. If I'm being honest, I don't really understand the Ashiok Dream Render, but we'll try it out. We'll see if we can get somewhere. Something interesting about sideboarding with this deck is that you don't always board out the same number that you board in. Just because you don't really want to be cutting lands, you can shave on combo pieces. Usually if you're cutting anything, it's going to be the Narcomoeba, the Driven to Despair. In matchups where those aren't good, occasionally you'll shave a prized amalgam, but mostly you're bringing in cards. You're very rarely cutting cards. So we have Thoughtseizes and Duress. These are very good against counterspell decks and other combo decks, just to try to take combo pieces. Good against Lotus Field, good against Control, good against the Reclamation decks that have been going around. Abrupt Decay and Natural State are to answer things like Soul Guide Lantern, Grafdigger's Cage, Tormod Script, anything that stops us from comboing off. And then Thassa's Oracle is some insurance. If we can cast a Thassa's Oracle in the same turn we mill ourselves out with Balustrade Spy or Undercity Informer, then that lets us beat any Graveyard Hate that they might have in play, even if it's Rest in Peace, Leyline of the Void, anything like that. So that's the deck. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, we're here for round 1 of our prelim with Oops All Spells. Let's take a look at what we got here in the opener. Looking at 2 lands, we're on the play. I think that we can do a little bit better than this. Looks like we're going to 5. 2 World Spine Worms in hand is not what we want to see. What do we have here? We've got plenty of mana. We do need to draw a payoff for it. I think I'm willing to go to 4. Well, this is not great. I think that this is the 4 cards that we want, though. We're just looking to find a green source in the first few turns here. If we don't, we're probably in some trouble, but that's alright. Temple of Mystery suggests that we're playing against Lotus. Usually a good matchup. They don't have a whole lot of Graveyard Hate. We tend to be just a little bit faster than them. Obviously, if they can get a Tormod Script early, then we're in trouble, but we'll do our best to hopefully fade that. Don't love to see a strategic planning. That means that they have the Lotus already lined up, but we're looking at putting everything on the table next turn and killing on turn 4, so... sorry, that was our turn 3, right? Yeah, that was our turn 3. Oh wow, this is a very strong start. Alright, we're hoping that they can't win next turn. It's very possible that they can. This is a matchup where we don't want to bring Narcomoeba back, because one of their best ways to win, or to beat us, is to go and get Anger of the Gods. So we're going to play around that by having the prized amalgams come back on their end step rather than ours. We do want to say yes to the Creeping Chills. We want to say no to the Narcomoeba. Alright, and let's see if they can put something together here. I do like to see their pores and their strings not netting them as much mana as they could. Okay. Our opponent is losing mana at this point. They're paying 1 for their draw 3, which is still a fantastic rate, but not really what this deck needs to be doing. Okay. Only have 2 mana left over. They also have a land drop to make for this turn. That's notable. I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good. You know, it's funny. I've spent so much time Lotus comboing people. I never really think about like what it feels like to be on the other side. We're just kind of sitting here and waiting, aren't we? Okay. They should not be able to win from here. They would need to go land drop strings and then be able to put something together from just 4 mana, and they've already used 2 of their hidden strings. So okay. Up to 6 mana. And at this point, having used 3 hidden strings, they need to get up to 10 or more mana to be able to do really anything relevant, like go and get a sweeper from the sideboard. That would cost minimum 7. To actually get something game-breaking, they would need at least like 11 or 12 mana, so not super concerned there. I think that this is a matchup where we're going to be bringing in the Thoughtseizes and the Duresses. We're going to be cutting the Narcomoeba because we never really want to use it, just because of, like I said before, sweepers. And in this deck, the strategy that I've been hearing from people who have a little bit more experience with it than I do is that you can shave things, but you don't actually need to board out the same number of cards that you board in. You can stay above. You can stay above your starting deck size. So I'm looking at anything else that we might want to cut in this matchup. I can't really think of anything. I'm trying to think of whether or not Driven to Despair is very good. I don't think that it is, just because if we're attacking them, we've already won the game. I think that we can get rid of Driven to Despair. We don't really need to have that be in our deck. Just because if we're attacking them, the discard's never going to be relevant, and they don't present enough blockers for the Menace to be relevant. So I'm just going to present this 65, I think. It's bringing in the hand attack, cutting some of the unnecessary combo pieces. This is a hand that's a little slower, but because it does have these 2 Thoughtseizes, I'm going to go ahead and keep. We get to turn. This is likely a turn 4, but with 2 Thoughtseizes in hand, we can probably slow our opponent down a significant amount. Now, they're having a very fast draw here, so I do wish that this black source had been untapped, but that just is what it is. This is interesting. I can have it kill next turn, but that gives them, but it's not an actual kill, it's just a virtual kill, so I would still need to untap. I think that waiting a turn but Thoughtseizing them twice is going to be the way to go. Okay, in this instance, we are going to take Fae of Wishes. I care more about the payoff than I care about the mana at this stage of things. And then next turn, we're going to go Paradise Druid plus Thoughtseize. Opponent just has all lands in hand. Very good for us. You got it. This is an instance where it could be valuable to have, you know, to have the Driven to Despair where they have multiple Arboreal Grazers, but I don't think that it's going to matter. We will tell our opponent to look at the cards. They don't really have any draws that get them out of this, I don't think, just because of the way that their mana is set up right now. They obviously could just run off a very good Pour Over the Pages, but barring that, I think that we are in the clear from this point on. Alright, we'll bring back our Ghouls, and then our Prized Amalgams will come back on the next end step. So if they do draw, I don't think that they have any draws that could sweep our board unless they sideboarded in some number of Anger of the Gods, but okay, if they go Vizier into Fae, they can Anger, but then we just have a win with our Prized Amalgams. Alright, and we win the match. Always hate to be beaten up on another Lotus Field player. Love this deck, but feels good to win. We'll see you back here for round 2. Hey everyone, we're back here for round number 2 of this prelim. 1-0 so far. And we won the die roll again. This hand is not very good. If one of these were green, I might keep, but they're both black, so we're going to go ahead and mulligan. I think I want to see just how aggressively I can mulligan. I don't want to gamble on trying to find a green source in the first 2 turns. I think it's fine to just go down to 5 and 4 pretty aggressively. Like this hand just doesn't do anything unless we find, again, like an untapped green source. Now this is a hand. We do need to find a land, but that's alright. It's possible that I should have kept the Flora, whatever that card's called, just to have us win on turn 3 if we do find another land, but wow. Everything is easy apparently. Never punished for your mistakes. That was one of our better draws. It's probably going to get Fatal Pushed here. Wow. No Fatal Push there is excellent for us. Looks like we're just up against pretty normal Sultai. So we're just going to go ahead and Balustrade Spy here. Have our opponent look at the cards. And then win the game. I think that it might have been a mistake to play the Florahedron on turn 2 there. I think maybe I should have just played it as a tap land, just to play around something like Fatal Push. You know, we're a turn slower, but I think I would rather have it be guaranteed. So I think that was definitely a mistake, but that's all right. We won anyways. So in this matchup, I think that this is a Thassa's Oracle matchup. So I'm going to bring in the Decays. I think I'm going to bring in 2 Decays, and we might as well have 3. And the Thassa's Oracles. Don't think that we really need Narcomoeba. Don't think that we really need Driven to Despair. Alright, let's do it. I've been advised by Baker, who I got this deck list from, to bring in the Thassa's Oracles in matchups where things are pretty slow and grindy, and they might have multiple pieces of graveyard hate. And so the plan for that is to have Thassa's Oracle in our hand, mill ourselves out, and then put it in play. Another option that we have is to, sorry, just 1 second here. It's better to play one of these green sources, so I'm just going to play the Florahedron. Another option is if we play it and then use Undercity Informer to mill ourselves with the trigger on the stack, that can just win the game outright. Is this Thought Erasure? Brutality. Sure, you get Balaged Recovery or Creeping Chill. I don't think that card is very good. We only have Eldritch Evolution that it hits, but maybe that's just good enough. I also just noticed it looks like our opponent is on a mulligan to 5 here, so that's very good for us. Alright, so they're playing a Reclamation deck, which means we need to worry a little bit more about counter spells than we had to before. Alright, this is fine. Obviously, not having our 4th land isn't exactly where we want to be, but even if they do have counter spells, we do have backups, and hopefully we can get there. Wow, that just resolved. Okay, that's very good. Okay. I guess we're doing it. Now, our mill isn't going to be very good just because we have 3 of the combo pieces plus a World Spine Worm in hand, but I think that we'll still be alright. Okay, so I'm going to do this now. Actually might as well attack first, just get in the 2 points of damage, because I am going to be sacrificing the Undercity Informer to itself. We'll go ahead and sacrifice that. Doing this because I want to have 4 mana afterwards with the Sylvan Caryatid so that we can use Haunted Dead, and so that we can cast these Creeping Chills, if need be. Unfortunately, we're only putting our opponent down to 12 here. We do still have lethal next turn. But that isn't exactly, it's not ideal to draw this many of your combo pieces. It's one of the upsides of playing a list with more cards. We saw Madi, I can't remember Madi's last name, I think it was Madi Quisma. In the mocks have a 79 card version, just played like a lot more of the lands, and it played Neoform. Baker really prefers this version. He really prefers to just draw your stronger combo cards like the Caryatids and the Paradise Druids more often. So we're trying this for now, but the upside of having the deck with more cards is that you draw the Creeping Chills, the World Spine Worms, and the recursive creatures less often. It looks like our opponent has some way to interact with our graveyard here, which if they do, good beats. I hope that they don't, obviously, but I don't actually know what they can have to save themselves now that we've done this. I'm really not sure. Oh. Oh, wow. Okay. That is definitely a way to punish us for drawing, multiple Creeping Chills. We will have to leave. We'll probably end up leaving Narcomoeba in the next game then. Still, we are still able to win the game. We still have Haunted Dead. Did they exile my World Spine Worm? What? Where did that end up? Sorry, y'all. Just give me 1 second here to check out what's going on here. Oh, twice X cards. I thought that they only exiled 2. They exiled our Haunted Dead as well, which means that we are dead. Alright, opponent got us. Definitely was not expecting Erebos' intervention, so we're going to leave our Narcomoeba in that case, and probably cut an Abrupt Decay or 2. Yeah, now that we know that that's how they're interacting, I'm just going to bring in a couple of Thoughtseizes. Can also hit counter spells, so Alright, we will try to not draw a million of our combo pieces this game. Well, not off to the best start, but this is still, I think, too strong of a start to pass up. We also have Thassa's Oracle, so we are capable of beating Graveyard Hate if that's important. I think I'm just going to jam the Undercity Informer here before our opponent has a chance to get their 3-mana counter spells up. Alright. I can't really think of any removal spells that they could have here for our Undercity Informer. Let's think. What else can they do to interact here? Erebos' Intervention. I'm going to look that card up really quickly. So Erebos' Intervention is black X. Exile twice X cards from graveyards. So they would be able to exile 4 cards from my graveyard, which means that if they do have it and an untapped black source, they could do the same thing that they did last game, which is eat 2 Creeping Chills and eat our World Spine Worms, which does kill us, but thankfully they do not have that. I'm going to play Prized Amalgam and have Prized Amalgam be the sacrifice here. It's just pretty free. Sometimes it can be valuable to have creatures in play along with Undercity Informer, or to still have the Undercity Informer in play to sacrifice creatures. If for some reason, which I don't think that they will at this point, our opponents were to gain a lot of life, then we could start milling them out with Undercity Informer and Haunted Dead combinations. Alright, doesn't look like they have any way to interact, which is pretty good for us. I'm trying to think of a reason not to bring back this Narcomoeba, and I can't really think of any. I don't think we mind if our Prized Amalgams come back here. Alright, and we will pass the turn. I think that we've won. We'll see, obviously. It's possible that our opponent has something that we can't deal with, but I think that we're in a pretty good spot here. I don't think that they could have any... I guess Languish could be something that they have, but... yeah, I probably should have left the Narcomoeba in the graveyard to play around Languish. I don't think that that's a card that's seeing play right now, but it's the only thing that I can think of that could plausibly lose us this game. Opponent deep in the tank here. Alright, and we got there. Pretty strong draw. Looks like our opponent had, a strong draw as well. We were just got to be on the play, so that's why you want to win game 1 with decks like these. Alright, we'll see you back here for round 3. Alright, hey everybody, back here for round number 3. And we just are not getting very many good 7s tonight. Doesn't seem to matter so far. We're still winning all of our games, but yeah, I like this one. We're gonna keep. I think we're gonna bottom Paradise Druid. This is pretty much all we're looking for. We are on the draw, but Unless our opponent has a really strong start, they're going to need a turn 3 Karn here to disrupt what we've got going on. Okay. No Karn, no Karn. That's not a Karn. Yep. This matchup can be pretty difficult if they have a Karn. It kind of all hinges on that. So we are really hoping to fade here. Luckily, after sideboard, we get some more options. We get ways to remove artifacts, and we get our Thassa's Oracles. So, yep. Unfortunately, not a whole lot that we, could have done this game. We kept what is pretty much our best hand. I still think we're going to play it out, just because we do have Balustrade Spies. So might as well try to just play the mediocre Flyers game plan until they interact with it. If we can get them down to 12, then we can just win the game with Creeping Chills at some point. So, you never know. Do not like 4 mana being tapped. I wish that our opponents would never tap mana again. Alright, we are not beating a Nissa, so I'm going to go ahead and pack this one in. So I think we want the Thassa's Oracles. I think we kind of just want everything. Obviously not going to bring everything in, but I think we want like 3 Oracles, probably 3 Thoughtseizes. We don't need an Archimeeba. We can probably leave in Driven to Despair. We'll shave a Prized Amalgam. We'll give this a try. This is a matchup where I do not have a plan nailed down at all. This is actually my first time playing against this, so kind of figuring things out on the fly, but we'll see how it goes in games 2 and 3. Hopefully Thassa's Oracle lets us juke their Karns a little bit. I gotta say, I know it's not logical or rational at all, but it always feels kind of like we wasted it when we had such a clean turn 3, and then our opponent just was like on the play and had a better turn 3, and it's like, man, wish we could have saved that 3 for a game when we were on the play, But it is what it is. That's part of Magic. We won our first couple die rolls of the night. Sometimes you're just gonna lose them, so we will try to rally back. Our opponent's really thinking here. They honestly might bring in 1 or 2 cards, but most of their sideboard is a Karn package. So usually they just don't sideboard in most matchups. And if they do, they're just switching out 1 or 2 cards. Would like to be on the play. This hand does not do anything, so we will mulligan. This hand also does not do anything, so we're going to go ahead and go to 5. I guess this hand is pretty live to find anything that mills us, but even then we don't even have a second blue source for this Thassa's Oracle, so just going to go ahead and put it back. I know that we don't play a ton of blue sources in this deck, and so this plan is kind of suspect a lot of the time, but We will go ahead and keep this. We will bottom and bottom. I think. Yeah, those are going to be the bottoms. So at this point, we're just hoping we hit, a third land that comes in untapped, or a Sylvan Caryatid, something like that. Obviously, this hand needs some things to go right, but it also has a lot of potential. Definitely more powerful than either of our first two hands, so we're pretty happy to keep. I know it seems like we're mulliganing a lot tonight. I've played about 4 leagues with this deck, so I'm about 20-25 matches deep. And it doesn't feel like it mulligans on average as much as we've been mulliganing tonight. Alright, so we looked at their hand. We got to take their only payoff, which was a Karn. Love to see it. So I think that we're actually pretty favored to win from here. Alright, their last card in hand is a Nykthos, so we're just going to go ahead and play, we're going to play Balustrade Spy now that we've found the untapped land. Alright, well, we mulled a 5. We were able to take our opponent's interactive piece with a Thoughtseize and still just win the game on turn 4. Our draws were very cooperative. That was about the best sequence of draws that we could have hoped for from that mull to 5, but that's why we mulligan aggressively with this deck. Sometimes we're just going to hit the lands. Alright, now we just got to win a game 3 on the draw. It'll be tough. I definitely don't think that, we're outright favorites, but I think that we've got a good plan with our oracles and things like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this back. This could be a matchup. I think this is going to be a matchup where I want natural states over the abrupt decays, especially on the draw. Just because we have so many lands that come in tapped, I think that 1 mana is just so much less than 2 mana. So we're going to go ahead and try this instead, because we're really just saving the abrupt decays for Karn artifacts. It's pretty rare on the draw that we'll be going after. This hand is solid. It's not the best, but it is solid. It's pretty rare on the draw that we're going to be going after mana dorks or pressuring creatures, or creatures that pressure us. So there's that. Our opponent is thinking about this. Unfortunately, this hand doesn't have a way to interact with Karn, but I still think it's strong enough that we should just keep it. I don't think that you can really mulligan to like Thoughtseize or Natural State plus the goods. I think that when your hand is, as strong as this, especially when our opponent goes down to 5. Obviously, we didn't know they were going to 5, but we knew that they were taking at least 1 mulligan. If they'd kept 7, probably would have thought more about this, but because they're taking a mulligan, I think that this is something that we're okay to keep. Now we just need to hit 1 more untapped land for a turn 3, otherwise we have a turn 4 rolled up. Alright. Scavenging Ooze. Well then. That one could make life difficult. Alright, so our opponent 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see, what can they do here? They can eat all of our creeping chills. We would be in a really bad spot. I have a plan. I don't know if it's the best plan in the world, but it is a plan. We're going to go ahead and get a Sylvan Caryatid. Then we're going to Hagra Mauling this Scavenging Ooze. We're kind of banking on the rest of their draw not doing anything. So, you know, this is risky, but just putting, you know, putting our combo in play just doesn't actually do anything there. It doesn't accomplish anything. Alright, do we want Balagad recovery? I don't really think that there's a reason to play it. I think we might as well keep it in hand. So we're just going to pass here. Hope we get one more turn of our opponent not doing anything. Okay. Forest is fine. Just going to Hagra Mauling this. And then we'll go for the Spy next turn. If they had a Karn, I imagine that they would have played it last turn. It's possible I was just supposed to take that damage, actually. Just to kind of put the fear in them and make them keep holding their mana up. I was actually supposed to take that 3. That was a mistake. I still think that we're going to be fine. I don't think that they have a Karn in their hand, but we will see. They're paying cost for something here. Not sure what for. Alright. Thought it was Voracious Hydra. Voracious Hydra is really the only X spell that they play, so I think that we are in good shape here. We'll just go ahead and play Balustrade, Spy out, make our opponent look at some cards. And I suppose if our opponent draws another Scavenging Ooze or a Karn here and is able to nuke our graveyard, we could be in kind of a bad spot just because we only have these Silver Smote Ghouls. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Fortunately, it looks like we're just going to win the game. But it's possible that I misevaluated the matchup and I just should be leaving the one Dark Amoeba in. I probably should be. Alright, well, we win the game here, fortunately. We just bring back all of our prized amalgams and attack our opponent for lethal. We do get to finish them off in style with a Creeping Chill. Could have cast the Driven to Despair, but at this point it doesn't really matter. There's nothing they could have to save themselves here. And they also know that unless we boarded one out, we have the Creeping Chill in hand. So, all right, and with that, we are 3-0 in this prelim. All right, see y'all back here for round number 4. Hey everyone, back here for round number 4. Let's see, we're looking at a hand that is not very good. We're going to go ahead and ship this. Our opponent is someone who plays a lot of Luris and aggressive style decks, so we're going to be trying to keep a hand that's good against those. This hand is pretty good against those. We're looking at a turn 3 through no interaction, and a turn, hopefully turn 4 if our opponent does have a way to interact with our Florahedron on turn 2. I'm guessing either Auras or Burn. Looks like Burn. Now, because they almost certainly have a way to interact with this Florahedron, I'm just going to play it tapped so that we can guarantee a turn 4 rather than needing to draw a land. Alright. Doesn't really look like our opponent's going to have much to do here. Just going to play Undercity Informer. With them only having one land, I don't think that there's any reason for us not to do this. You know, I think that the worst case scenario is they have like another Wizard's Lightning on this, and then Wizard's Lightning us, and then we go to 6, and then we go to 3, but then we gain a bunch of life. So I think that we're in a fine spot here. We just go to 9 and then 6, and then win the game. Alright, opponent just goes ahead and packs it in. Pretty good for us. So I think that in this matchup we're just going to want the decays, the natural states, and we're going to board in 2 Thassa's Oracles, I think. We don't need Driven to Despair. We are going to leave in the Narcomoeba for a couple of reasons. One, it's a really good blocker, and 2, they have Roiling Vortex, so that means that if they have Roiling Vortex, then we won't be able to gain life, and then we'll need Narcomoeba to bring back our Prized Amalgams. So I'm actually going to board out a Silver Smoke Ghoul in that case. Any other matchup, I would usually board out a Prized Amalgam just to make our deck a little bit thinner, but I think that this is what we're going to do because they have ways to stop us from gaining life. This is definitely a matchup that we want to be running into. We are a little bit faster Goldfish than them on average, and our Creeping Chills gain us a bunch of life. This hand is quite good, so we'll keep. This is just a turn 3 through interaction. Yep, Roiling Vortex is fine. We have this natural state to deal with that. So hopefully our opponent just... Not sure what I'm hoping for here, to be honest. We're taking a lot of damage here. I actually think that we're going to be in some danger of losing this game, just because Natural State, we can't, there's no way for us to gain life next turn unless he taps out. So we might just have to go off without gaining life and then hope it's good enough. Sure, okay, so we're going to 8 here, 7 after the Vortex trigger. Yeah, we kind of just have to cross our fingers and hope, I think. Hope that he's not able to burn us out. We're gonna get Balustrade Spy, deck myself, look at the cards. Alright, so we have 2 blockers. We're going to be going to 6 from this on our upkeep, but we do just have lethal next turn, so he needs burn spells here to kill us. Yeah, if he has like a land in hand, I don't know. This is fine. We're obviously going to be blocking the 2 Swift Spears. You got us? Alright. That should be good enough for us to win here. Wonderful. All right, pretty easy win there. We are 4-0. We're going to be playing the winner of Miss Trigger and Jabberwocky. So we'll see you back here for round number 5. Play for the 5-0. All right, hey everyone, back here playing for the 5-0. We're up against Logan Nettles' Jabberwocky, who finished in 2nd the mocks this weekend. So hopefully we have a good match. Logan's usually playing some sort of Sultai, either Reclamation or just normal Delirium cards. I'm going to be honest, I clicked keep. I'm not entirely sure this hand is a keep. It's a little bit loose. We do need our Paradise Druid to survive, or we need it to not get Thought Seized. So this is a turn 4. It's possible that this is just too slow against someone who we know will probably have counterspells. Jeez. Alright, we do just have to jam our Eldritch Evolution here, I think. It's not really getting any better for us. Yep. If this doesn't work, we do have some Silver Smoke Ghouls that we can play to just try to be aggressive. And who knows, hopefully we draw another one of our payoffs pretty soon. Either way, this game 1's not looking too great for us, but we do have a lot of good ways to approach the matchup in the sideboard, both our hand attack and our Thassa's Oracles. I gotta say, don't love drawing 2 World Spine Worms, but is what it is. Shark or Flashback Chemisters. Flashback Chemisters makes sense. I think that's better than Shark Typhoon for us, but still, we're not in a very good spot this game. Probably going to take Silver Smoke Ghoul here if I had to guess, or Creeping Chill, I suppose. Doesn't really matter. This game is pretty over. Sure. Alright, well, I'm just going to play Undercity Informer. Hope it works. Oh, okay. Here we go, gamers. We do need to have a stop on our upkeep so that we can discard our World Spine Worms so that we don't deck. And we do need to beat this Uro, which could be difficult, but... Just flashing back Chemisters. Sure. No blocks. That is really bad. Yeah, bringing back this Narcomoeba was kind of a punt, to be honest. And yeah, now we've lost. Alright. I'm not sure if I could beat that anyways, but I definitely should have probably played around it by not bringing Narcomoeba back, so that was pretty bad on my part. Gonna bring in the Duresses and the Thassa's Oracle effects. I don't think that we want Narcomoeba. I think that we... Do we? Yeah, I don't think that we want Driven to Despair either. So I think that we're just going to run it like this. Hand doesn't really do anything. This hand is pretty good. Alright, Logan also kept 7. Not great for us. Very not great for us. Probably going to take Paradise Druid if I had to guess, but could take one of our 2 payoffs if he has ways to fight over them. Alright, so now we're looking at a probable turn 4, which definitely not as good as what we were going to have, but that's alright. Just going to play this Undercity Informer, see if he has a way to answer it. Okay. Even if he like takes Balustrade Spy and then has some sort of terminate for Undercity Informer, we do still have a plan here. We do still have this Florahedron and this Eldritch Evolution, which, you know, unfortunately he knows about now and can probably plan for. But we will see. I don't know if he leaves in, like, Eliminates or anything like that. Alright. I guess we'll start by attacking for 2. Yep, fine. I think that we would rather sacrifice the Florahedron. And, alright, this way we still do have a shot against, actually we just beat an extinction event like this because we no longer have that Narcomoeba. So I think that we're looking pretty good to get to a game 3 here. The one thing that could mess us up here would be Shadow's Verdict, but that does cost 5 mana. Oh my god. Okay, so he's just gonna name World Spine Worm, and then I guess we lose. Wow. Alright. Good beats. Okay. That does it 4-1 prelim, still not bad, you know. Goal was to get QPs so we can play in PTQs and play in MOX events. Alright, see you in just a minute for the breakdown. Alright, so we went 4-1 in that prelim. You know, not the result we were hoping for, but can't really complain about losing to the best in Jabberwocky. So, had some really good games. I think we learned a lot about the deck, to be honest. Now, moving forward, I think that I want to explore some different sideboard options. I think that I want to try... Whoops, took out a Thoughtseize there. I want to try things that aren't Ashiok. If we're particularly worried about the mirror, you know, Ashiok is something that's really good at fighting graveyards, but it's not actually good at fighting the mirror match. So I think I might want to look at putting Leyline of the Voids in here. I was very impressed with Thoughtseize and that type of effect, and I think that I want to test out Thassa's Oracle more, just because it's really strange, to be honest, because we don't play that many blue sources. We only have 12 of them. And so it's definitely something that I need to test out more before I determine if it's, you know, really all that good or not. Now, I'm trying to think here. Something really interesting at the MOX was, you can see here that the deck is 62 cards. This is the list that Baker registered. Someone registered a 69 card version, and someone registered a 79 card version. That person ended up in the top 4. And so I want to play around with the different amounts of cards in the deck, just because, you know, you might have noticed that we were taking a lot of mulligans over the course of that prelim just because we didn't have enough lands or we were drawing too many combo pieces. The more cards that you have, you know, you draw your really impactful cards, your Paradise Druids and Sylvan Caryatids, and then, you know, your Eldritch Evolution, Undercity Informer, Balustrade Spy less often. You do have Neoform to make up for that. But you also draw, you know, your Creeping Chills, your Prized Amalgams, your Ghouls, your Worldspine Worms a lot less. So that's definitely something that I want to explore. And then Madi Quisma, who was in the top 4, actually had Thoughtseizes and Duress in his main deck. And so if there's a lot of mono green devotion and there's a lot of control decks, that could be really valuable to have. But going forward, definitely going to be exploring this deck a lot more. I think it's at the top of my list for the MOX Showcase Qualifier in a couple weeks. So look out for some more content with Oops All Spells. I might be playing some new versions of Lotus Field as well. Just kind of testing everything and seeing what I like in Pioneer. Y'all know that I love combo decks, but might also look into something like Mono Green Devotion or a Burn. So thanks for watching. Thanks to RIW Hobbies and to Mana Traders for sponsoring the channel, bringing all this great content to y'all. And then hope you have a good one. We'll see you next time.
I'm joined by Kyle Balgamase. Welcome, Kyle.
How are you?
Raja Suleiman with Orzhov.
Max McVitie.
Congratulations, Brian DeMars. Zach Allen. I wouldn't be here without these guys, though. So.
And the champion of Proto Counter-Attack here, Ari Lax.